Hello, my name's Rachel Clarke and I'm going to talk to you today about the reading detectives which are published by Curated. I'm one of the authors of the series and also the series editor, and I want to tell you a little bit about the books in order to help you realise just how great they are. First things first, these came about on the back of last year's SATs papers. Now, as we all know, they were really hard. The texts were hard, the questions were hard, and we felt hard giving them to the children. So by talking to teachers, we knew that we needed to put together some resources that had rich, engaging texts that children would want to read, but texts that would enable us to ask some questions that were sufficiently challenging so that we could prepare children for the SATs. And we think we did it with the reading detectives. So what do you get in a reading detectives book? Well, you get one of these with a lovely cover on it, and inside you get 15 extracts. And the extracts come from a range of different texts, but everything is something that you would want the children in your school to have experienced. So if we think about the Year 6 book, for example, in there we have got an extract from The Tempest from William Shakespeare. So we know that's from our literary heritage. In the same book there's also an extract from Oedipus, which is a science fiction story about a robot, which is really rather dark and very sinister. And that's written by Nicholas Fisk. And part of the thinking there was to include a text that children may not know and something that's really very different to they would have encountered before. And I think they'll like that one. Another extract that's in the Year 6 book is from I Am Malala. And that's one of those texts that you really want your Year 6 children to read. She's an inspiration. And you want children to know about how she stood up to oppression and how she fought for the rights of herself and other young children. And also how she continues to be an inspiration for people across the world to this day. So that's an extract that's in the Year 6 book that I'm particularly proud of because I think it's really, really special. Now, if we think about our children at the other end of Key Stage 2, we want to inspire them to read, and we also want to give them access to things that they may not have read before. So in the Year 3 book, we have got a traditional tale from Ireland, The Children of Lear, which they may or may not know. But we've also got something which I really like, and that is a real letter written by our Queen. And this letter was written to President Eisenhower back in the 1950s after he had stayed at Balmoral with the Queen and Prince Philip. And it's wonderful. The children don't just have the opportunity to read a letter from the Queen, but because of the types of questions we've included, they get to evaluate it as well. I think you get a flavour from that about the range of the extracts, the quality of the extracts, and also how exciting they are as well. And I think things that you may not have encountered in a reading comprehension text before. In Year 5 and 6, the extracts are 2 pages long, and in Year 3 and 4, they're a little bit shorter, which is exactly what you would expect. Each of those texts has 10 questions. 3 of them are from content domains 2A to 2C, and the remaining questions are from content domains 2D to 2H. Some of those questions have 2 or 3 marks with them, and that enables the children to really dig deep and to analyse the text in some depth. I know from my conversations with teachers that vocabulary is a real concern at the moment. We've never tested vocabulary in a reading comprehension test in the way that we do now. So what we made sure that we did with each of the reading detectives was to include at least 1 2A question. And that means that you can rest assured that you are teaching some vocabulary to the children in your class. But because we include 2G as well, you also get the opportunity to explore the effectiveness of word choices and language choices made by authors. And that's interesting, it's engaging, but it's also really valuable because children can transfer that knowledge from working with text into their own writing, and you would hope that they start to use some of those writerly techniques when they're writing their own texts. So we've got 15 extracts, we've got 10 questions, and then we've got 2 pages of assessment and teaching notes. And these include the content domains, they've got model answers, and also what we tried to do was we tried to exemplify how we came to get the answers in the text. And the reason for that was that I know that sometimes you're working with a text with children, but it's actually quite challenging to work out where the answer came from, because sometimes it comes from across the text. So we tried to do that for you so that when you're working with the children after answering the text, you can go back and analyse and find all those little nooks and crannies in the text where the information belongs. Another thing that I should just point out as well is in the front of each book you get this really rather handy close readers chart. Now I think this serves 2 purposes. The first one is it almost provides you with a teaching sequence for working with each text, because it directs the children to read the text slowly at least twice to get an idea about what it's about, and then circle words that they're not sure about. And then there are some other prompts there as well. Now I've seen this in action in a few schools, and it's worked really well, because when the children have circled things they don't understand, the teacher has then been able to provide that input to the whole class before they go away and do the formal questions in the text. It's also a useful aid memoir for the children, and I would be tempted to photocopy that, stick it in the front of their notebooks, and also photocopy it and enlarge it and have it in the classroom as a prompt for every single time we're working with a text. This is the way we need to go about doing it, so that they're methodical and they don't feel overwhelmed by the process of answering questions. One final thing I think that's important to say about this particular series is that Keen Kite have included a CD-ROM with each book. And it's not just PDFs. On there you have got everything as a Word file, which means that you can edit the questions and write them in a way that suits your children. And I say that because we wrote each of the books with ARE in mind, so the age-related expectation. And I know that not all of your children will be able to access the questions at that particular level of challenge, so you can amend them. Or if you wanted, you could take out some domains and supplement those questions with perhaps more retrieval or more inference. But you can use it however you want to, because it's editable. And that, I think, is probably everything I need to tell you about the Reading Detectives. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing your questions about the series.